It's the beginning of May, and I am excited to announce that I am doing 2 read-a-thons this month. The first read-a-thon that I am participating in is Medieval Read-A-Thon, which is one that I have done in the past, but I'm very excited to be doing again. It seems like it's going to be a lot of fun this year. So let's go over some of the prompts and rules for the Medieval-A-Thon Read-A-Thon. So everyone in Medieval-A-Thon starts as a prisoner, and each book you read helps you gain a rank in nobility. So from prisoner, you go to peasant if you read 1 book. If you read 2 books, you become a squire. If you read 3 books, you become a knight. If you read 4 books, you become a noble. If you read 5 books, then you become a prince or a princess. If you read 6 books, then you are a king or a queen. And if you read 7 books, then you are an emperor or an empress. So my goal is to read 7 books for Medieval-A-Thon this year. So another part of Medieval-A-Thon this year is that we each get a profession. And the profession that I chose was tailor/seamstress. So I'm hoping to become an empress of seamstressing. For each profession, there are 5 different ranks that you need to get through in order to become a professional at your trade. And each of those ranks includes a reading prompt. If I read all 5 of those reading prompts, then I will be at prince/princess level, and I would only have to read 2 more books in order to become an empress. I haven't decided for sure what books that I'm going to read for those prompts yet, but I am working on a list right now. The first prompt for the seamstress career is a book that you're unsure about. The second prompt is the first book to a series. The third prompt is a book that is embossed or has foiling on the cover. The fourth prompt is to read a book that is the last book that you either borrowed or bought. And the next prompt is to read the prettiest book on your shelf. After I complete those prompts, I will only have to read 2 more books to complete Medieval-A-Thon. This month is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, so I am hoping that all of the books that I read this month will be either by Asian authors or by Pacific Islander authors, or will contain characters that are Pacific Islander or Asian, because I think that would be really cool to dedicate this month to that. In honor of the Heritage Month, I am planning on doing Asian Read-A-Thon as well. There are 5 prompts for Asian Read-A-Thon, and I am planning on reading some of the same books for Asian Read-A-Thon that I'm reading for Medieval-A-Thon. That way I don't have to read twice as many books. So the prompts for Asian Read-A-Thon are to read a book by an Asian author, to read a book where the main character is a woman and or older, to read a book where the universe is either very different from our own or is a universe that you would like to experience, a beautiful cover, and a book that is highly rated or has been recommended to you. Again, I haven't decided exactly which books I want to use for this read-a-thon, though I do have some ideas. I have made a list though of a bunch of books that are written by Asians and Pacific Islanders so that I have a lot of choices to select from. I filmed a video beforehand that talked about some of the books I was possibly going to read during the month of May, and I never finished editing the video or putting it up, so I'm going to probably put some of the clips from that video in this video, but this video is going to be talking a little bit about some of the books that I read in the month of May. Because it was Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month last month, I decided to only read books by Asian authors and Pacific Islander authors. For Medieval-A-Thon, you can read whatever books that you want as long as they fit the prompts, but I wanted to stick with books by Asian and Pacific Islander authors because I feel like I don't always read enough of those, and so I wanted to dedicate the entire month to some of those books. And I still have a lot on my list that I'm going to get to as soon as I can that I wasn't able to get to this month. I did add some books to the list after I finished filming that other video, and I will go over the ones that I actually did read. I'm gonna go over the books that I read for Medieval-A-Thon first, and then the books that I read for Asian Read-A-Thon, but just so you guys know, I did crossover between them. So all of the books that I read for one, I also read for the other. I just made it work for the prompts a little bit differently. The first prompt for the tailor/seamstress career profession thing for Medieval-A-Thon was to read a book that you're unsure about. So the book that I read for that prompt was When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Ning Bo, and I really liked that book. Now it's a sequel, and the book that comes before it in the series I enjoyed okay, but there were a lot of things about it that I wished were different. It's very short, so was this one, and I was hoping for a little bit more world building, a little bit more exploration of the characters, and I didn't really feel like it was as complete the first story, but the second story I absolutely loved. In this world, there are essentially clerics that work as kind of storytellers and history keepers, and this story is about a cleric telling a story in order to essentially save her life. It is a standalone in the Singing Hills cycle, but it is also a sequel, so that's kind of hard to explain. You don't have to have read the first book to understand the second book. They are taking place in the same world. In this story, the cleric character is telling a story to the tigers. The tigers have their own version of the story, and it's very much about how there are differences in the stories, how those stories come together, and it was a really beautiful book. I don't want to tell you too much more about what the story is about because I don't want to give it away, but there is romance, so definitely check it out if that's your thing. I really liked it a lot, and like I said, I liked it more than the previous book, so and they are standalones, so if you want to just read When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain, you totally can. The next book that I needed to read was for the prompt first book to a series. For that prompt, I read the first volume of Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. I did talk in my previously recorded video a little bit about that one, so I will probably insert a clip of me talking about that one here. One book that I would definitely like to get to this month is Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. This book is a manga, and it is the first manga that I will ever read, which is really exciting for me. I am really enjoying it so far. I'm about halfway through and I love it. It's very cute, it's very sweet. It's a little outdated in some ways, but that's okay, like I don't mind. I think that it is just really adorable so far, and so I'm really looking forward to finishing this one. I have the first 5 volumes of Fruits Basket, and I'm borrowing them from a friend. So after I finish this one, I am hoping to get to the others soon so that I can return those to my friend. But this is one that I'm definitely going to try and get to this month. I haven't decided which prompt to put it for either of my read-a-thons, but I am halfway through this one already, so I am hoping to use this one for a read-a-thon this month. So for those of you that don't know, Fruits Basket is a story about a family who has an ancient curse that makes them turn into the animals of the zodiac when they are hugged by someone of the opposite gender. And this girl that comes into their lives and kind of wreaks a little bit of havoc and changes their lives forever. So I'm really looking forward to continuing this series. It's so cute and so fun so far. So I a little bit cheated on the next prompt. The next prompt was a book embossed or had foiling on the cover, and I read 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. And I don't actually have a physical copy of this book, but I have seen a physical copy where it is embossed. So I counted it, even though I actually read an audiobook that I got from the library of that one. 6 Crimson Cranes is a kind of mashup between East Asian folklore and Western fairy tale. It is based off of the Wild Swans, I think is what it's called, or the 6 Wild Swans or something like that, by Hans Christian Andersen and the Grimm brothers. I think they both have versions of it. And it is about a princess who is in exile and her brothers are turned into cranes, and she cannot speak or else one of her brothers will die. So she has to be silent, and she has this like bowl on her head so that no one can recognize her. And it's honestly such a beautiful story. There was love, there was like familial love and romantic love, and also magic and just like stunning world building, and I really enjoyed every second of it. It kind of got me out of a reading slump, and that was really good for me. The next prompt for Medieval-A-Thon was the last book you bought/borrowed, and I borrowed the They Called Us Enemy by George Takei, and it was so good. It made me cry. It was a beautiful, like, it's like graphic novel style, but it's a memoir, and it is about the Japanese internment camps during World War II, and it was just so heartfelt and so beautiful, and I highly recommend that one. I did want to pick up a nonfiction this month, and so I decided on that one because I felt like it would be interesting to me, and it very much was. So if you are interested in history or want to learn more about those internment camps, then I definitely recommend checking out that book. The next prompt was the prettiest book on your shelf, and I have several very beautiful books on my shelf, so this one was very difficult, but I read The Ivory Key by Akshaya Raman for that one.
So the footage where I explained the plot of The Ivory Key has gone missing in the ether, so I decided to do a bit of a voice recording where I explain the plot of The Ivory Key. It's a very good book. It's based on Indian-inspired settings, and it's from the perspective of 4 different siblings who are estranged and then kind of come back together in this search for the Ivory Key, which is an object that their father was looking for that can bring back magic, which is a prized resource that is running out.
The next 2 books I read were to get my rank up in nobility for Medieval-A-Thon and didn't actually have to follow any prompts. The next book was Dawn Raid by Pauline Beluaga Smith. Dawn Raid is a middle grade book about a girl and her family. They are Samoan and they live in New Zealand, and they are confronted with the dawn raids that are happening, where the New Zealand government goes into the homes of Polynesians in the middle of the night, early dawn, and drags them out of bed and asks to check their papers and stuff like that because of an overabundance of immigration problems that they're having. But the immigration problems actually are mostly people of European descent, and the Polynesian people are getting blamed for it. And it's about this girl, she's like 13 or 14, and her older brother gets involved with the Polynesian Panthers, who are protesting the dawn raids, and it's about the way her family gets involved in this movement. And it was really nuanced and really well written, and I liked the voice of the character. It was written in like journal entries for the main character, and she was preparing the whole time. She got a job and she was trying to buy herself some go-go boots, and she was preparing the whole time to participate in a speech competition, and she decides to write about the Polynesian Panthers. And so it's really, really good. I highly recommend it. It was a short book and an easy read because it was middle grade. I don't read a lot of middle grade anymore. I did when I was younger, but every once in a while I will pick one up if it's been highly recommended or if it has a concept that's interesting to me, and this one seemed really interesting and I was right. I really enjoyed it. So the last book that I read for Medieval-A-Thon was Homebody by Ruby Kaur. I read Milk and Honey last year and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to read another book by this author, and I enjoyed Homebody. It was upsetting. Definitely check out trigger warnings for that one, but as much as it was upsetting, it was also kind of like leading to self-reflection, which ended up making me feel hopeful. So it turned out okay for me, but I definitely do recommend looking at the content before you read it, because there are some very upsetting topics in it that could really trigger some people. I'm gonna be honest, they triggered me a little bit, but I was able to like overcome them. It was also beautiful though, beautifully written, and I absolutely loved it. So it's one that I will probably return to again. I loved it as much as Milk and Honey. It is a poetry book, for those that don't know, and as you may know, I'm very picky about poetry, but I have liked everything that I've read by this author so far, so I will probably continue to read their works. So now I'm gonna go over the books that I read for the prompts for Asian Read-A-Thon, and like I said, there was crossover between the 2 prompts, so I'm not going to go into full explanations of any of these books because I already have, and yeah, I'm just gonna mention the prompt and the book. For the prompt that was by an Asian author, I read They Called Us Enemy. For the prompt that was the main character is a woman and or older, I read 6 Crimson Cranes, and even though the main character isn't older, they are a woman. I read When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain for the prompt, A Universe You Want to Experience / is Very Different. A cover that is worthy of like oggly eyes. I read The Ivory Key by Akshaya Raman, and for a book that was highly rated / recommended to me, I read Homebody. So I hope you guys get to look at some of those books, and some of the ones that I was not able to get to, I'm hoping that I'll be able to get to soon, because they all sound really good and I just, you know, have a limited amount of time to read. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, all that fun YouTube stuff. Let me know how I'm doing in the comment section. I love to hear from you guys. All right, bye!